The second town hall meeting, initiated by the federal government, moves to Kaduna State in the northwest. This time, 6 ministers appear to give account so far of government's activities, plans and strategies.
That are here will speak to some of the areas as it concerns their MDAs.
The ministers include the Minister for Information, Culture and Tourism, Mr. Lai Mohammed, whose office is the supervising authority for the convening of the town hall meeting. The Minister for Solid Minerals, Kayode Fayemi, the Minister of State for Petroleum, Ibe Kachiku, who's appearing for the second time, perhaps because of the importance of his sector to the daily living and business survival of Nigerians, the Minister of State for Budget and Planning, Zainab Ahmed, the Interior Minister, and the Minister for Communications.
4 to 5% of our GDP.
The gathering is not different from the first, held in Lagos, southwest Nigeria, some weeks ago.
To the federal government of Nigeria's second town hall meeting.
After a brief welcome by the host governor, Nasir El-Rufai, the information minister again takes the lead in talks.
It is important to reach you directly, as we are doing today.
As usual of him, the government's fight against insecurity and corruption is yielding results, despite the challenges inherent. Mr. Mohammed assures that the government is ready to abide by the rules of the contract it made with the people at the polls to deliver the dividends of democracy.
We campaigned on 3 broad areas, which are to tackle insecurity, to fight corruption, and to revive the economy. On the fight against insecurity, undoubtedly the biggest challenge that we faced upon assumption of office on 29th of May 2015, I'm happy to inform this gathering that we have performed a rare feat by subduing Boko Haram and making it impossible for the group to carry out any more spectacular attacks. Some will argue that the insurgents are still carrying on sporadic suicide bombings and other attacks, even though they are now very few. Well, our answer to that is simple. By its very nature, no insurgency suddenly ends. They taper off with time. Insurgencies are not conventional warfare, and no agreements are signed to silence the guns. Of course, no nation in the world is strong enough to stop attacks on vulnerable targets, such as mosques, churches, motor parks, IDP camps, etc. The recent attacks in France, Belgium, and Cote d'Ivoire testify to this statement. As the military carries out mop-up operations, the challenge we face now is resettlement, reconstruction, and rehabilitation. Think about it. If you suddenly lose over 70% of your monthly salary, your life can never be the same again. At its worst level, oil crashed from over $100 to about $30 a barrel. It has recently inched up to over $40 per barrel, but even that is a very far cry to what it used to be. For a monoproduct economy, this shortfall is nothing short of a disaster. But the administration has decided to turn the disaster to a blessing by working assiduously to diversify our economy away from oil.
It's the turn of the Minister of State for Budget and Planning, Zainab Ahmed. In 7 minutes given to her to speak, she tries to convince the people of how critical her ministry is to planning.
Revenue projections in the budget, but we're still very much optimistic.
She says work on the 2016 budget began since November 2015 with the medium-term development plan in focus, plus key strategic priorities the government pledged to meet.
The 2016 budget itself was deliberately made to be an expansionary fiscal policy document. even though the budget has a significant increase in fiscal in a deficit, the aggregate budget of 6.06 trillion is in itself 29% made up of capital expenditure. The recurrent expenditure in the budget is 2.2 trillion. We have a debt service obligation that is provided for in the sum of 1.4 trillion. The fiscal deposit of 2.2 trillion will be largely financed by foreign and domestic borrowing. And let me state here that there will be deliberate effort to make sure that all the borrowing is applied to capital projects that are growth-enhancing projects. There is a specific provision of 500 billion naira for social intervention programs. The Nigerian economy has been a monolithic economy for a very long time. This administration seeks to diversify the economy with special concentration on agriculture and mining.
Mrs. Hamed reveals that there are classes of revenue collection aimed at scrutinizing government expenditure in order to guard against wastages.
Last week, or maybe about 10 days ago, the Federal Executive Council approved 34 priority projects and programs that government has made commitment to deliver in 6 specific sectors. I will take a few of them because some of my colleagues that are here will speak to some of the areas as it concerns their MDAs, but specifically, the sectors were divided into 6. And the first sector, policy and governance, had 9 key actions that need to be taken. One of these actions is to ensure that we achieve as a country a foreign exchange regime that is stable and predictable by the end of the next 12 months. We also have a target to make sure, with the CBN leading, that there is a low interest rate, a single-digit interest rate for lending to the productive sector of the economy. We hope also to intensify the implementation of the public financial management reforms which are taking place in various MDAs to grow the revenues and to cut wastages.
Obviously, the Minister of State for Petroleum and the General Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) is the man in the eye of the storm. His sector is daily held responsible for the shortage in fuel, which daily affects the running of the home and businesses. He begins his talk with an apology.
Let me start by first apologizing for the difficulties you have in terms of getting your fuel. When I arrived this morning from Lagos, I did a quick tour of Kaduna. And although the situation is improving, I felt sad still that a couple of areas around the central areas are not getting the sort of product they deserve quickly, especially since you have the privilege and the honor of having a refinery here. But the reality of our situation is that wherever I turned when I was appointed, I found problems. But we still have to deal with the behemoth, which is the fuel issue. And the reality is that as long as these refineries don't work in absolutely top capacity, as long as we do not have the foreign exchange to bring in the product, because money basically in the system is dissipated, as long as the price of crude continues to slide, and part of my responsibilities is getting it up, and I did give my colleagues the hope that I was going to get it up to 50, I'm happy today it's 46. As long as those conditions continue, we will have problems with fuel. So you've got to apply brain work to it. Do I want to see it continuing? No. There's been a lot of improvement, but there's a lot of work required, and in the next few months, I assure you that you see a completely sanitized area in terms of fuel supply. We're working on those.
Dr. Kachiku hints that the regime of fuel subsidy may have ended as there is no provision for such in the 2016 budget. She promises the unveiling of a new policy to address the problem of fuel subsidy in the country.
There is a whole lot of work still to be done. I can't go through all of that. Most important, we need to begin to develop massive infrastructural support in this country. The pipelines crisscrossing this country must get to work. We've got to get investors to invest in them because we do not have money to build them up. More refineries have to be built. The target is to build 3 more co-located refineries in Kaduna, in Warri, and in Port Harcourt, taking advantage of the need to share facilities. And if we do this by 2018, if all our refineries are working, we will drop importation by 60%. And by 2019, if the co-located refineries begin to work, and I'm sure that they will, we will actually begin to export petroleum products for the first time in this country. So there's a massive amount of direction. For the upstream sector where production has been climbing down, our target is to move production up to 2.3 million barrels, but I'm personally committed to 2.5 million barrels. For that to happen, I have to find funding for the upstream sector. We're doing that. For the first time, we're engaged in negotiations that will enable the federal government to exit the process of cash calls and leave money belonging to government to Nigerians to do their development. The days of hopelessness are past. The days of careless expenditures are past. The days of corruption are going. And we're heading to a future where we can deliver a country that we can all be proud of.
"24 hours after the meeting, the federal government announces a new price regime for fuel, which now stands at 145 naira per litre. According to the government, the new price will stop hoarding, increase and stabilize the supply of the product, as oil marketers will be allowed to import PMS on the basis of forex. This is expected to drive competition and further slump pump price.
Please stand up. Hold hands together, please. Stand up, hold hands together, hold your neighborness, and please recite after me.
In rounding off his speech, he directs a dramatic scene.
We are Nigerians. Our nation has had its challenges.
Our nation has had its challenges.
But we remain abundantly blessed.
So today,
we stand on the thresholds of history.
We stand in the thresholds of history
to build a new Nigeria of our dreams.
To build a new Nigeria of our dreams.
Thank you.
And thank you very much.